In Haiti, you can read on the front pages of the main newspapers that death squad leaders are rampaging through the country. The death squad leaders, apart from a hideous record in earlier years, were responsible for maybe 4,000 to 5,000 deaths during the period of the military junta from 1990 to 94. 91 to 94. The military junta, though it's that much is reported. They were leaders of the military junta, which killed maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people. The death squads did, the paramilitaries. What's not mentioned is that the military junta was supported by the Bush and the Clinton administrations. In fact, just to quickly go over the background, there's a long, ugly, horrifying history going back 2 centuries, but just starting in 1990, Haiti did have its first free election in 1990. The U.S. had a candidate, World Bank official, Marc Bazin, who had assumed would obviously win. He had all the money and everything else. Nobody was paying attention to what was going on in the slums and the streets and the hills. And what was going on was pretty impressive. A lot of large-scale, effective organizing among some of the poorest, most miserable people in the world, and grassroots movements had developed with nobody paying any attention, which were so powerful that when it did come to an election, they swept the election. The U.S. candidate got 14% of the vote, and President Aristide won by a very large majority, which shocked everybody. The United States instantly turned to overthrowing the government. It withdrew support from desperately needed support from the government, not because the government was inefficient. It was getting very good marks from the international lending institutions and so on, but because it had broken the rules. It was a popular government that had been elected on the basis of large-scale grassroots organizing. All aid was withdrawn from the government. Aid was given, but only to the opposition. Up until that point, under agreements first with Carter, then intensified with Reagan, the U.S. had a virtual blockade around the island during the period of the vicious military dictatorships that the U.S. was supporting to try to prevent people from escaping. That's illegal, of course. It's in gross violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and conventional humanitarian law, but anyway, that's what was going on. They changed it when Aristide was elected. For the first time, Haitians were allowed to come to the United States and accept political asylum, not when they were being tortured by Duvalier's thugs. It didn't matter too much because very few people were trying to get out. In fact, during that moment of hope, people for the first time were trying to get in. But if anyone was trying to get out, they were for the first time allowed to be called political refugees. When the coup took place, as was anticipated 7 months later, it reversed. Then nobody could flee again because they weren't political refugees. The Organization of American States called an embargo after the military coup. Bush, who was then president, announced right away that the U.S. would disregard it. It would permit U.S. firms to break the embargo, to continue providing aid, commerce with the military junta and the rich backers. The press did report this. The New York Times reported it as an effort to fine-tune the embargo for the benefit of the Haitian poor, namely by allowing U.S. firms to violate the embargo. That passed without comment. And in fact, trade with Haiti continued, extended under Clinton even further. The crucial element in the embargo, any embargo, is oil. Haiti, military and the rich elite would run out wouldn't be able to continue if they didn't have oil. The CIA was testifying solemnly to Congress that no oil was getting in. I was there for some of the time. I've been in a lot of horrible places. I've never seen people so terrorized and terrified, just afraid to open their mouths. But all you had to do was walk around the streets of Port-au-Prince to see the CIA was lying. I mean, you could see the oil farms being built. You could go to the harbor and see the ships coming in with the oil. But the pretense was maintained that the U.S. was not permitting oil to go in. It later turned out that the Bush and the Clinton administrations had authorized Texaco Oil Corporation to circumvent presidential directives and supply oil illegally to the gangsters who were torturing and terrorizing the population. That has yet to be printed outside of the business press. It was known in 1994. And the dissident press, of course, which isn't subject to those constraints. Finally, in 1994, Clinton decided that the population had been tortured enough, and the president was permitted to return. That is described, what I've just said you don't read in the front pages, but I'm coming back to what you do read. What you do read is that this was a magnificent act of humanitarian intervention, pure altruism, entering the noble phase of foreign policy as we restored the democratically elected president, 1994. Continuing with what isn't reported, the president was indeed allowed to return, but on a condition, namely the condition that he accept the program of the defeated U.S. candidate in the 1990 election who had gotten 14% of the vote. That is a very harsh neoliberal program which opens Haiti up to complete takeover by foreign, meaning U.S. mainly corporations, no constraints. It was bound to be an economic disaster for what shreds of the economy remained. It's a familiar program. It has just been imposed on Iraq by the proconsul Paul Bremer. Order 39 last October declares that the Iraqi economy must be open to takeover by foreign, mainly U.S. multinationals. The banks, U.S. banks, J.P. Morgan, and others have to be able to take over the financial institutions, which means essentially running the economy, and everything else can be bought up by foreign, mainly U.S. businesses. No sovereign country would ever accept that, but this is a country under military occupation. The business classes in Iraq are protesting because they know they can't withstand international competition from U.S. massively subsidized U.S. multinationals, but it doesn't matter. Bremer also imposed a 15% top tax, Bush administration delight. Again, no sovereign country would accept that. It's programs like that in the last couple of that Adam Smith was complaining about. In fact, it's programs like that, forced imposition of market principles on countries under military occupation. That's basically what's created what's today the third world. The rich countries, including the United States, have never accepted such rules. And actually, it's interesting. Adam Smith urged the U.S. colonies, this is 1776, to pursue comparative advantage, to do what they're good at. What they were good at was agricultural production, catching beavers, sending fish to England. Said concentrate on that. That's the best way to maximize efficiency. But don't try to develop industry. That would be crazy because British industry is far more efficient, which was true. And you'll just be harming overall efficiency if you try to develop your own industry. Well, same laws for India, but India had to accept them because they were under occupation. The U.S. was able to throw the British out, disregard the advice, which happens to be the same advice that economists are now giving to the poor countries of the world, and it violated the principles of comparative advantage and economic efficiency.